Hi everyone, and welcome to the stream. So today we're going to continue working on our trading bot that we started last week. So it's glad to have everyone here. If you can just give me a second to prepare something and we can begin. All right. So I guess we're ready now. So yeah, I've done some improvements. So in the last stream, yeah, I still hope that the microphone is fine now. And yeah, and also, yeah, some of you guys suggested that I should stream in HD. So hopefully you all guys can see in HD. And I also try to zoom in my code so you also have a better look. So I have some quick updates before we start with coding. So this is mainly an update for my members. So guys, if you check my website, atjresearch.com, what you'll find in the live stream section is that now I will also publish all my live stream schedule on this page here. And so for today, right, today's the 12th of November, what you see here is that today I'm live streaming coding a mini reversion bot on IBKR TWS. So I will from now on post a regular stream schedule. So if you want to prepare in advance, and join my live stream, you will find this calendar here, and then you will also be able to click on a link to watch my live stream. And also with the recent live streams, you will also find this section here. Hi Vinicius, nice to have you on stream. Nice to see you after a long time. So it's great to have you here on board. And so this is just a quick update for my members. So let's start with today's coding. Let me open the task list from last week. So I think the task is actually in the description of our YouTube, in our YouTube descriptions. First, I need to find it though. Right, I found it. So let's just have a quick recap what we did last week, right? So last week we coded an implementation of the Interactive Brokers API, which you can find in the documentation page here. And we tried to create a very simple algo that opens and closes trades on our TWS account here. And so where we left off is, so what we did is we learned how to extract account data from our TWS account. We learned how to extract for portfolio data and also how to subscribe to real-time data. We also know how to request historical data to compute the indicators. We also calculate the Bollinger Band, which is used for mean reversion trading. And today our goal is to use everything that we did last week, and our goal is to code a mean reversion trading bot that uses Bollinger Bands. And also, if you have some time left over, I will also show you some of my implementation, how I code a statistical arbitrage trading bot. So these are the strategies that I'm personally trading. And then also the last part of the task is also implement some risk management, right? So I'm not sure if we can we'll have enough time to look in the risk management, but we'll see how it goes. And yeah, so risk management, for example, is something like, okay, if my position is in this amount of loss, when will I exit the position, or if the margin is too low, or if I place more than X number of trades, please tell the trading bot to stop trading, for example. So these are all the things that are part of risk management. And so let's get started. So the files from last week, right? So here's the trading bot from last week. And so let me just show you what we actually did last week in the code. So in the code, we have our trade app class, which is using the e-wrapper and the e-client from the TWS API. And we created some variables where we are saving the data that are returned in our callback functions. So in this class, we have access to things such as account balance, equity, excess liquidity. We have a portfolio data frame, which contains all the data of our open positions in TWS. And then we have also variables such as market data and OHLC data, where we're storing our historical data. Here we have the individual callback functions, right, that return the data for the data type we need. So in update account value, we get the things such as balance, equity, excess liquidity. In portfolio, we get the open trades. And then in tick price, tick size, we get the market data, right? And here in the last section, historical data, we retrieve the data from the OHLC data frames. So now if I run this script here, so what this script will do is it will just extract all data from my TWS account and then print the individual data here in my terminal. So now let me run this trading bot to show you what our script is doing right now. So now you see every second it is printing data from my account. So here is the current time. Here's the current account balance, equity, excess liquidity. Right now I have one position open on Goldman Sachs, which you can see here. And then I have the current market data, right? Which is the bid, the ask prices, and so on. And also I have access to the historical HLC data. So this is the recap. And so how do we use that to create a mean reversion trading strategy, right? And I think the best thing we can do right now is maybe we can extract the data inside the Jupyter notebook to actually explain to you how the strategy works. And then we can use the examples in that Jupyter notebook to implement it into our interactive brokers trading strategy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, so for today, I'm going to create a new Jupyter notebook. I'm going to call this Bollinger Band Strategy. And in this strategy, we're going to import some data on any symbol that we want, right? So in our previous Jupyter notebooks, here you have, for example, the statistical arbitrage template. I'm just going to copy some functions here so we can start working on this. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to write a mean reversion strategy on a single symbol, right? On a single symbol. And then later, I'm going to show you how a strategy works on statistical arbitrage. So now I'm just going to copy some of the old functions, and then I'm going to explain what exactly everything is doing. Yes, I think I'm going to reduce the size a bit so I can have a better view on my programming. If it's too small for you, let me know. I can change it back. So I'm going to zoom my ID to 205% so I can like code a bit better. So hopefully you can still see what's going on here. And yeah, so let's get started. So I copied just some, imports and functions from my previous notebook to, run some backtests and explain a mean reversion strategy with Bollinger Bands. So here what we're going to do is we're going to use Data Bento as our historical data feed provider. So by importing Data Bento here, this function allows me to export historical data. And so let's try to apply the strategy on some symbol that is, on anything. Let's just, for example, say we're gonna trade on Goldman Sachs. Right, so we see on the 1 minute chart, it's actually quite nice arranging. And so here I'm going to use the symbol GS, and I'm going to use the dataset xnas.h, right? So this is just a dataset that allows me to retrieve historical data from Data Bento. These are US stocks. And I'm going to call this variable GS data. So what you guys can see here now is that using this simple function, I retrieve data from Data Bento. And here I have the open prices for Goldman Sachs. Let me plot the prices so you can see what it looks like on historical chart. So I'm going to use Plotly. So I'm going to use px.line. Here I'm going to use the data frame. On the x-axis, I'm going to provide the time column. And then on the y-axis, I'm going to provide the open column. Right? So now you can see that I have retrieved the historical data on Goldman Sachs. So this is 1 minute data, open, hello, close, volume on 1 minute data. And here, this is the historical price. And before anyone's confused why I'm using Data Bento, is that there are some limitations with Interactive Brokers API. First of all, it can be a bit slower, right? And there's also limitations in the amount of data that you can extract from TWS. So I decided, okay, maybe it's easier to have some, third-party service provider who offers me this very simple API, because just with this single line of code, all I have to do is provide the symbol of name and then the data set that I want to extract it from. And then as a result, I have this historical data here that I can use for backtesting, right? So if I wanted any other symbol, right, I can just, for example, change the symbol name to Morgan Stanley here. And then immediately I have, data for Morgan Stanley. So this is really nice, nice to have, and I think it's more convenient to work with Data Bento because then you have to log in to TWS, you have to enable market data. Another thing, you have to also to pay for market data. Also means like Data Bento also costs something, but these are the reasons why I'm using Data Bento. Okay, let's compute the Bollinger Band indicators. So it is a very simple mean reversion strategy. So here to compute the Bollinger Bands, all we have to do is take this data frame here, and then we will compute the individual indicators, right? So those of you who've been with me for some time, to compute a simple moving average, we take the open price, we apply a rolling window, and let's say we want to compute a Bollinger period of 20, for example, right? So this is our Bollinger period, and for this we will compute the mean. And for a standard deviation, we want to compute a standard deviation, right? Then we will have things such as upper band and also lower band. And here to compute the upper and lower band, we just multiply it with the standard deviations. And in my case, I'm just going to use one standard deviations. For example, if you want more, that always depends on the strategy that you want to deploy. So now I've very quickly computed my my technical indicators. So now I have the Bollinger Band, and if I want to visualize that, I can visualize it on this chart here. So here we would add the SMA, we would add the upper band, and then we would add the lower band. So now if we zoom in a little bit, maybe I will increase the period a bit so you can actually see the individual bands. So now if I zoom a bit closer, so what you'll find here is that the red line, I think I made a mistake somewhere. Just give me a second to see where it is. All right, because I used the open price here. That's my bad. It should be the simple moving average. So now let me run this again. And now let me just zoom to some data sample, right? So here, what you'll find is that I computed the simple moving average, which is the red line here. Here, the blue line are the open prices of our asset. And then here, the purple line is the lower band, and the green line is the upper band, right? And so with mean reversion trading, how we use Bollinger Bands is that whenever our price crosses below this level, we would, want to open buy order. And if the price goes above our green level, which is the upper band, we would want to sell. So I just wanted to visualize what Bollinger Bands look like on this price chart. And I'm going to apply this logic here onto our TWS account. So actually you can disregard this because this I planned for later. So I'm going to put this into a different folder. This is actually my trading bot example to put it in my trading bot examples for statistical arbitrage. And so I'm going to copy the trading bot file that we made last week. And here I'm just going to rename this to Bollinger trading bot. So what do we have to do to convert this strategy that I showed you in a Jupyter notebook into an actual trading bot trading, using TWS API? So we have all the things that we need, right? We have the historical data frame with the open high local prices, and we can also extract the market data. What I would also do here is first, let me just start the bot, and we're going to run the trading bot only on Goldman Sachs, because we're going to now write a Bollinger trading bot only on a single asset. And then hopefully I will also show you how to run it on like a pair trading strategy. So let's run our Bollinger bot script here. Oh, and it seems that my previous script did not turn off, so I will have to restart this. All right, so now we see that our trading bot is running. We have access to open, high, low, close data, market data, and so on. So right now, what we are missing here is we want to compute the Bollinger Bands real time. And if you look at the loop section here, right here, we are printing all the data to, to extract data for our trading bot. Here we have the open, high, low, close data, right? I'm just printing one line so we don't have, fill the terminal with too many lines. But let's say I just want to create a trading bot. We're just going to do it for, presentation purposes. So I'm going to extract data for today. And I'm going to extract 1 minute data so I can show you on real-time examples how to do that. So now let me also remove the tail here so I can show you the data frame. I'm just going to print it every 5 seconds. This string bot. Yeah, so now that the string bot is running, so this is the available data that we have. We see that the time here is also specified US Eastern. What we have to do here, because we don't work with the date now, it used to be a number, now this is a string. We have to convert this into a datetime object, theoretically, right? But to just compute the current Bollinger Band, and here we have to specify the period. So let's say we just create a strategy that, again, uses the Bollinger period. So I'm going to use Bollinger period 20. Mr. Random Gamer, sorry late to stream. What are you building? Just Theo's version of free course bot? Currently I'm building a TWS training bot using mean reversion, using Bollinger Bands. And then this will be like the foundation for the statistical arbitrage training bot. And like I'm also doing that, like what I'm showing here will be also part of my my course that I'm going to publish by the end of the month, right? So this is all just to show you more like the details how I'm coding these training bots live. So hopefully you can also learn something from that. Right, we want to compute the Bollinger Bands. So here I specify the Bollinger periods. And then we want to also compute the number of standard deviations, which in this case is 1. So here, because we have here the data frame here, so let me compute the simple moving average that is used for Bollinger period in the line here. So SMA is equal to, so here I would take the data frame. I would take the last Bollinger period record. So we're taking, in this case, the last 20 rows. That's computed for indicator calculation. And then I will compute the mean here, right? So it would be computing that real time. And again, for standard deviation, I can also do the same. So here I'm taking this rolling window, computing the standard deviation, and then the upper band here would be my SMA plus the standard deviations times the number of standard deviations. And then here the lower band would be equal to SMA minus the standard deviation times number of standard deviations. So now we just quickly computed the indicator, and let me print the values. So here our upper band would be the upper band, and here our lower band would be this value. And then we also want to print, oh, I accidentally turned on the debugger, my bad. Probably pressed on the wrong key. And so here I'm going to print the simple moving average. And here I'm going to print the simple moving average value. So now I'm restarting training bot, and hopefully we will have the values now ready. And I see that I made a mistake here because I'm trying to compute some values on non-numerical values. Oh, and I see the problem because I forgot to provide which column to compute it on, and I want to compute it on the open prices. Okay, so now you can see that our script is most likely working. So we have computed our simple moving average, our upper band, and the lower band. It also looks like that the values do not change very much, because as you can see here, here's the lower band. When I print that, yeah, the lower band should be lower. Let's also increase the number of standard deviations so we can also see the difference in values. Right now it's just an example strategy. By no means this is a profitable strategy that we're right now developing, but it will be the foundation for the future strategies that we're going to backtest later. Okay, so now we see that the upper band is 835, lower band is 832. So there's like $3 US difference between the bands, and the simple moving average is 833. So let me just apply some rounding so we have some nicer numbers to look at. And this is actually all we need to now create our Bollinger Bot, right? So to create a Bollinger Bot, we just need to, how to apply the round? You round, oh yeah, like this. So here we applied the rounding. And hopefully now the values should look a little bit better. Okay. So now that we have all the indicators, I don't need to print the OHLC data, right? Because I just want to show them so you can see what data we are working with. And here I have some print statements that I want to get rid of. I have some print statement here, so I'm just gonna write pass. And now I think it should be okay. So let's restart again. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to use those indicators that we just computed to create a trading logic and to open some trades on our TWS account. Okay, so now these are our indicators, right? So SMA upper band, lower band. So let's create a signal function, right? So, and this signal function will just verify if we should buy or sell. And as you know, like with mean reversion trading, what we do is, let me show you back this here. So with mean reversion trading, what we're doing is whenever price crosses below the lower band, we buy, and where the price crosses above the upper band, we sell. And then we have the option to exit at the simple moving average, or we can also exit on the lower band, for example. It depends on like what strategy you backtest, but let's say we exit at the simple moving average. And so let's go to the trading bot section here, and like in this section down here, we're going to create the strategy logic. Let me also print the prices here. So here I also want to print the current market price. So here I can print current bid and ask, which is the bid and ask here, right? So the current bid is 831. Here the ask is 832. So I will want to print that. And we actually have the data here already somewhere. So here we have trade app dot market data, as you can see here. And market data here in this dictionary shows us that Goldman Sachs bid is here 831, and Goldman Sachs ask is 832. So here we can provide the market data with the key Goldman Sachs, and here the bid price, and for ask price we do the same but add the key ask. Okay, so now we have the current bid and ask. And so the logic here is if our ask price crosses below the lower band, it should trigger a buy order, right? If our bid price is above the upper band, it would trigger a sell order, and then we want to exit our position when we are at 0. So this is the logic of our mean reversion strategy, and we can easily implement that. So what we do now is we can create a simple if statement. So what I've just said, if, you know what, I'm actually gonna save this into variables. So here bid is our bid, so we actually save, you know, I don't have to copy that every single time. Our ask is equal to this value. So here we have our bid, here we have our ask. So if our ask price is below or less than our lower band, so right now I'm just gonna write print buy, right? So I'm just writing print buy because that's a signal, and then we'll add some trade functions to actually open the trade. Else if bid is higher than the upper band, we then want to print sell. And that's basically it. Anyway, I don't know so much about AI and Python, but this sounds legit. Good luck, man. Yeah, thank you very much. This is not AI though. This is just, you know, very simple programming, and I think well, it is difficult, but it's not too difficult to learn. And yeah, thank you. So if our ask price is below our lower band, we buy. If the bid price above the upper band is sell. And this is for entries, right? So only if our exposure is 0, we want to enter into our trade. And so for the exit logic, so basically what we want to check, and so for this example, we need to make sure like to check what the exposure is, right? So if, for example, our exposure is 0, then we want to buy, right? And if our exposure is -1 or 1, then we want to exit our positions. So this is something that we also have to consider. We have to implement the current exposure, and we can get the current exposure from the portfolio, right? So here, as you know, we're extracting the portfolio data, and the column position returns the value, right? So here, right now, our Goldman Sachs position is -1, so we only have -1 stock open on this stock. So how do we extract that data? So here, what I'm going to also compute in this section here is I'm going to compute the variable current exposure is equal to, and here we would take the portfolio data, and here it is indexed by the name of the symbol. So we are indexing based on the Goldman Sachs value, and then we want to check the position value, right? So the position is the amount of volume that you have open right now. So hopefully that will work. And if I print this value, I think I should have something. So let's print current exposure. Autocomplete is very handy here. As an actual student, I want to learn some of this magic too. Does it work good so far, my friend? Well, what I'm presenting right now is just some example strategies, but it is, you know, as I said, the foundation for my strategies that I'm trading. So again, I'm trading statistical arbitrage, which involves buying and selling two symbols at the same time. And I've been doing that this year so far with great results. And yeah, so that's why I'm sharing that with you guys. I wouldn't want, you know, to share something that doesn't work. And yeah, thanks for asking. So our current exposure is -1. So here I extracted the current volume, which is this value here. So if I close this position, for example, right? So I'm closing my Goldman Sachs strategy, the position. So here I'm right now short -1. So if I buy one stock on Goldman Sachs here, then our exposure is 0. And then this value should also update. So here you can see that our current exposure is 0. So it does update real time. And so here for strategy logic, now that I have access to the current exposure, right? So I want to enter into trade if my exposure is 0. So if I'm flat. So here I would have to add and current exposure is equal to 0. And here too, right? Is equal to 0. And then for the exit strategy, so if our ask price is below the simple moving average, right? So ask is less than SMA. Then we want to exit our buy position, right? So in this case, and current, sell, sorry, and exposure is less than equal to 1. So basically what this means here is that if you look at our example, example before here. So first we're entering into a sell position because our price exceeds the upper band, and then it reverts back to the simple moving average, right? So we're first getting into a short position, and then once this short position or the price crosses below the SMA, we want to close that short position. So basically, we want to exit that trade using a buy order. So that's what it means. So our current exposure is -1. So we want to exit buy position, which in other words, I'm sorry, exit sell position. It's always confusing, which exiting a sell position requires to buy. And so if you are in a long position already, so if bid is above upper band and our exposure is greater or equal to 1, then let's print we exit a buy position, which would then imply a sell. And that's it. That's all it is. Now the last part to apply, to start trading using Bollinger Bands, we need to also provide the app with some strategy parameters, right? And the strategy parameters are things such as volume, right? So how many stocks we want to buy or sell. So let's say like with this strategy, we're going to buy or sell 10 stocks. And I guess that's it, right? So now instead of printing the values here, and let me actually restart this so you might also see, you know, the print statements when any of these conditions is true. And let me also decrease the Bollinger Band period, because by lowering the period, the indicator will update much faster, and then, you know, we will see more trading opportunities. No, just for demonstration, of course. Okay, so now we see that our current signal is sell. You see that? So here, if we look at the bid price, you can see that the bid price, which is 833.58, should be higher than our upper band, which is true because the upper band is 833.5. So now that we see that we have a trading opportunity, we can now, instead of print statements, also add trading, a trading function, right? That will actually open the trade in TWS. If you remember, in our last live stream, I've shown you how to open a trade. And so all we have to do is create a market order, right? That will submit the trade. So we can copy a section here, or we can just create a very simple function. So I'm going to implement that function into my current trading bot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a function that will create the order ID for my order. So basically it's just an identifier to submit that order. This is done on the back end of my trading bot. And then in the send order function, you will see that there is something called, or we're creating the market order function here. So here, let me also copy this function here. Actually, it's not the function yet. This is just, some code. And to create a market order function, I can just create a function define send market order. And this order will, this order will create a market order. And so the input for any market order is you want to specify on which symbol or contract you want to open that trade, right? And then another thing you want to do is it a buy or is it a sell? So this would be our action. And then we want to provide the volume or the quantity. And I guess this is all you need to provide to send a market order. So here, this would be the input of our action. The order type is a market by default, and this is the quantity, right? Or the volume. Let's actually write volume because that's a new variable that we've defined before. 1 second, let me check my phone. Yes, sir, but just check my trades to make sure that everything's going well. I have some, algos running while I'm like live streaming, so I have to check occasionally. But I have my partner, also looking at it, so I'm just, looking at the notifications just in case, there's something wrong or anything. So here we want to send a market order. So here we want to, place a market order on a contract. And the question is place order, and here's a contract. Okay. So now we have the function to send a market order, and our signal is still sell, right? So when I now update my code, this trading bot will or should open a position. And let's try. So as you know, here we have the print buy, right? So here we want to send a market order. And so here the inputs are which contract, right? And here we have the Goldman Sachs contract defined already. So we want to open a trade on Goldman Sachs. Then the next input parameter is the action, right? Is it a buy or is it a sell? And that's a very simple question because we already have the print statement here. It's a buy. And then how much do we want to buy? And this is already defined in the strategy parameters. So here the strategy parameter is 10. So I will open 10 stocks buy. Okay, so I've explained example on this single line. So actually applying that now in the other examples is quite easy because now here we know that instead of buying, we want to sell. And then here we want to exit our sell position. So exiting sell would represent a buy order, and exiting buy order would represent a sell order. So now what we can do is I can try to show you how the strategy works, or how to open a trade. So now instead of printing, we can now actually place trades, and hopefully I made no mistake. If I did, I would just fix it, of course. So again, we're connecting, and like previously, we had a sell signal, right? Well, not anymore. Let me also change the interval to 1 second. So what we're doing actually is we're iterating through this logic every 1 second, and we're always checking, for signals if we can buy or sell. So this is what this current robot is doing. And so unfortunately, right now we have no more signal. I think the best way to show you is to actually show the Bollinger Band on the chart here, right? So if we add the Bollinger Band, and here this is the Bollinger Band period 20. I think that's a period I created. And then I also want to check the number of standard deviations. So if you go to settings, and here we set the standard deviation to 1. So now what you should see is that whenever this candle is below this lower band, it will trigger buy, and when it's above this upper band, it should trigger a sell. I also need to make sure that the computation of candles is the same way I do, because I'm using mid prices, and so which is the mid between the bid and ask. So I'm not sure if the computation is based on bid, because usually brokers, what they do is they compute the prices based on the bid price. But if I click on settings and look at the settings here, yeah, I believe that the prices here are based on bid price, so they're not like 100% accurate, but it should probably be close enough to find a trade opportunity. So now we're just waiting, right? So we're just waiting until this strategy opens a trade, and then we want this strategy, to exit our position once that happens. Oh, so now we're below. Let's check our ask price, which is 833.17, and our lower band is 832.52. So we were very close to opening a trade, but not enough. But this is like the struggle, right? When you want to open a trade and it doesn't work. I mean, I can also try to just decrease the period, right, to make it faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease the Bollinger period to 10. Here I'm also going to change the Bollinger period to 10. So we'll find some trade opportunities. And right now we see we're very close to the lower band. So if I restart this, hopefully we will find some trading setup. So now the bands are much tighter, as you can see. Okay, so our upper band is 33.97 and 33.25, right? So here you can see that there are some slight differences because I use different candle types a while ago, but this is more for, just visual confirmation how the trading bot works. And maybe, while I'm waiting, I might figure out how to show the correct prices on the candles. So maybe I go back to settings again. Maybe it's here. Anyways, I guess I'll figure it out later. Okay, now the candle is dropping. So let's see if we'll find a trading setup here. Again, it just doesn't want to trade whenever I want it to. Very unfortunate. Okay, now again we are very close. Price is dropping. Now we're below. What is your favorite indicator? It's Bollinger Bands because I'm a mean reversion trader. So that's what I use. Or actually it's also like, you know, the Z-score, which uses standard deviations, but it's basically more like a spectrum when you use Z-scores, right? But in essence, it's Bollinger Bands. Okay, or maybe there is a mistake in my trading logic. That's also possible. So currently the bid is 832.45, 33.31. No, we still haven't crossed low. I guess it's getting a bit annoying. Maybe there's a bug in my code, right? This is also possible. Maybe I forgot to review something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if my indicator is up to date, which I believe it should. Because here we are like very close to the lower band, and I would expect the, you know, algo to do something, right? GS had a crazy rally today. Yeah, I didn't check the chart today. But yeah, it is crazy. Oh, and now when I change the chart, I just open a trade. So this is great. Okay, so what just happened is, and this is a bug. So the logic works, right? So what happened is that the price dropped below this lower band. But what you can also see is that it opened 30 stocks long. And in my strategy logic, I have volume 10. And the reason why that is that between the order submission and the order fill, when you send a market order, it may take some time before your order gets filled or you get confirmation from your broker. So while I had a signal, the strategy kept, you know, submitting orders over and over until it opened 30 contracts, right? So at least we know it follows the logic, but we need to also create a check that we only want to make sure that the exposure is 10. One way to do it, and this is like a very quick workaround, and I don't recommend it, but if you want to have a very quick fix, right, all you can do is just, you know, sleep 5 seconds, right? So you just wait 5 seconds until it gets filled. It is so we're basically saying, okay, once you place a trade, we will wait 5 seconds, and then hopefully the order gets filled, and then we don't have to do it anymore. So now I'm just going to close trades. I think the signal is still active. Oh, again, I forgot to disable trading bot. See, and this is why algorithm trading can also be very dangerous and why we do it on demo accounts. If you don't test your code and just run like that, you just open random positions, it can cost a lot of money. So again, I'm going to close the position again, and I'm going to restart my trading bot. And here we're implementing our sleep function, right? Okay, so now we have no signal yet. So when the signal comes, it will open another trade. So now we have another signal. So now you see that we do have another trade. 1 second, I'm having a call from a partner, so I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. My colleague called, regarding some trades that I have opened, so we were just discussing what to do with them. But yeah, let's get back to what I was trying to show. I'm not sure what I was trying to show. Yeah, we implement a sleep function, and now we see that we just have position 10 open. But there is also a much better way to do it, right? So let me show you how I actually manage the thing. And this is already getting into like doing some part of risk management, right? So whenever we open a trade, we can also track the exposure internally, right? So this is in one of my courses where I teach, how to run safety checks on your trading algorithms. So here I'm going to also create a very simple class, safety checker, or I can also just call it risk manager, right? So this is basically what it does. And so what risk manager can do is it can track, oh, wait, this is not how you do the class. So here I'm going to run the init, where I'm going to create some initial variables. And here what I'm going to do is self.expected exposure is for some NaND value. So what we do with the risk manager here is that, so I'm going to instantiate this class inside my main block. So we have a question: how to filter mean reversion, use any filter, only open trades with a daily trend, or use trend filter, for example, ADX. That depends on the strategy that you trade, right? So symbol by symbol or pair trade by pair trade, it's always different. And so, for example, with one strategy that I was trading this year, it was on COMEX, right? So we were trading gold and silver. We saw that our mean reversion trading was better, for example, in the European session, right? And then it didn't perform well in the American session based on the backtest. So what we did is just, okay, then we filtered out all the US trades and the results were much nicer. Or also, so what we did is just we filtered based on the time of the day. And I think that's a question of optimization. So based on some optimization criteria that you define yourself, you can then filter trades according to that criteria. I use mean reversion with other pairs. Yeah, great. So it's great to have someone on stream who also has a similar strategy as me. So yeah, welcome to the stream, and great to have you here. Okay, what do I want? I wanted to create a risk manager, right? So here, this class risk manager, or actually before, and sorry to be a bit confusing right now. So instead of creating a risk manager class, it's maybe easier to just explain on a single variable. And then as we add more and more checks in the future, then this risk measure class, will be more useful, because then we can structure code inside a single class. So when we instantiate or when we create this expected exposure, so here we can create expected exposure currently is the value of our portfolio, right? So when we run the script for the first time, we set the expected exposure to the exposure that we last recorded from our portfolio. And then every time we buy, for example, right, our expected exposure will increase by this amount of volume, right? And when we sell, this expected exposure will decrease by this amount of volume. And again, here we're buying, and then here we're selling, so it will decrease. And then we can run a very simple check, right? So before we even approach this execution logic here, we can run a safety check to make sure that we don't open any trades before all the safety checks are performed. And so we want to make sure that the current exposure, which we measure here, must be equal to the expected exposure, right? Because if there's discrepancy, it means that we opened a trade, our expected exposure is higher, but the current exposure doesn't update yet because our market order has not yet been filled. And so by running this comparison here, so if this is not true, right, we print exposure discrepancy. And then here we can also, for example, write the current exposure is not equal to expected exposure. And this is a very simple way how we can and then we interrupt the remaining code here because we are in a while loop, and then we will never get to the execution. And that way we will always make sure that the volume will never be higher than 10, right? So now if I run this again, then hopefully, as this stream goes on and we'll place more and more trades, we will never exceed 30. And also another thing that I do, for example, if you want to place multiple trades, right? So you, for example, want to split your trade into smaller sizes, you can also create something like, so this is the volume. You can create a variable such as maximum exposure, right? So the variable maximum exposure, for example, can be 100. And what that means is that we want to open up to 100 stocks, but we want to do it in an increment of 10 trades. Okay, there's another question. Close a partial position on MA or take profit. Yes, you can do that. You can define multiple levels. So for example, you can create like level 1, level 2, level 3, and always close like a portion of that position. So you can do that. User RM, good evening too. Thanks for stream. Yeah, thank you for coming. Also very happy to have you here. And thank you everyone who are watching and joining today. So now, instead of having exposure 10, let's say the exposure should be 100. And we can also do that. So instead of like checking if current exposure is 0, what we can do is, now we see that the candles went up. So now our exposure is -10. So we exit our position and then we went to short position, by the way. And see, our exposure is -10 still, right? It's not -30, -50. We are checking for exposure using our exposure check here. Where is it? This is our this right here is our safety check. And I wanted to actually open up to 100 stocks, right? In the interval of 10 units per transaction. So what I can do here, and this can be like dangerous, because with this change, we can theoretically open infinite amount of trades. And so we want to make sure that the current exposure is less than the maximum exposure, right? So we're making sure that the current exposure is less than maximum exposure. And so by instead of equal, we add greater than, then we can open our trade. So here with this logic here, and here because we're selling, here we would do less than. And here the maximum exposure is greater than minus this exposure, right? So we're inverting values because here we're doing a sell position. So yeah, here whenever you code in this strategy logic section, be very careful. A lot of it can screw up. That's why we're doing a demo account. And if you like want to modify something on a live strategy, right, always test on a demo first, run some tests, and then trade live. So what I did right now is I implemented a maximum exposure on my strategy. So now my code, what it will do is it will now open with the interval of 10 stocks per trade up to 100. Okay, so right now we have no trading opportunities. But again, if the price goes above this level or crosses below this level, we're going to open a trade. Yeah, but at least what I can do right now is, okay, I need to refresh this page. So what we did today is we already, oh, I can't edit this one because I'm on a different user. Let me try to log into my user. Nice. Oh, now we see that we're opening cells and we're opening many cells. Now we're short 70 and it should stop at 100, right? See that? So we opened short 100 shares on Goldman Sachs and then it stopped. So this is what we've implemented in this example. So this is done. And so the last task for today, and I've sort of also started doing like this risk management risk management logic. So now the last part is how to code a statistical arbitrage trading bot. And for that, like, this can be like a bit complex. I think better than to live stream would be actually covered in the course. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to explain to you guys how this statistical arbitrage bot code is coded. So this is the template that I'm currently using, and this is also going to be the template that I'm going to use in future live streams to actually show you actual live trades, right? So right now I'm like starting, like in the beginning I started to explain like what I'm doing, how I'm coding, but I really want to get to that point where like in a few weeks, right, I can actually create real strategies, show it to you guys, and like share the live results with you. Of course, the strategies that I'm going to show, will be backtested in front of you guys, but I'm not going to share, the strategy that I'm trading myself, right? The best strategies that are currently working for me. I think I'm not going to share that with you for obvious reasons, but because the live streams are going to be member only in the future, I think I can like have more freedom in like sharing some of my backtests and also sharing some of my like live trades that we're going to code, test, and deploy together, right? So we can expect in the future is that I'm going to put, let's say, 5 or 10,000 US dollars on my TWS account. We're going to run a backtest together, and then I'm going to run the trading bot where you guys can see actual real trading profits. How has the performance been on the strategies? So I assume you're talking about the stock status arbitrage that I've released 2 months ago. So on the first month, we made about 3,000 US dollars. In the second month, unfortunately, was losing. We lost about, I don't know, 1,700, $1,800 in that month. So overall in profit. But then also, because you're asking, like in October, what I did is that I found a really, really good strategy, and I really needed a lot of capital to actually, supply the margin for a strategy, which has been going real well. So I stopped trading the stocks arbitrage trading, and I put it all into my futures trading and spot trading strategy. So this is a statistical arbitrage focused on futures against spot contracts. If you guys are interested more into, how the strategies work overall, I'm going to share a link with you guys. I shared that in my Discord group also. It's a very simple strategy explained by CME. So CME Group is an exchange where they offer trading futures, and like they have great beginner content if you want to learn more about like futures trading, options trading, and so on. So here, this covers a little bit of how I trade also, and it's like focused on calendar spread trading, which is trading futures contracts, the same futures contract with different expiry dates. And yeah, so I think in the future live streams, I'm going to share, how to implement, for example, a calendar spread arbitrage strategy, or how to, for example, or if you see my videos, how to find discrepancies between ETFs and underlying commodities or assets. Okay, here we see that price is rising a lot. Now we are still short 100 stocks. So this strategy is performing as intended, which is great. So far there are no bugs. And I think, so the last part of this live stream is let's just walk through our statistical arbitrage trading bot, right? So here, I guess I mentioned this will be covered also in my course more in detail. So I will also show you how you can copy this template, add in the configurations, and trade the strategies yourself. So turning on the trading bot is nothing difficult, right? You just add in some parameters. The most difficult part about trading is actually, going through your Jupyter notebook, running those backtests, optimizing your strategies, and this is like actually just finding your edge. And like to find your edge, this is something that you have to do yourself, because no profitable trader will share your actual winning strategies with you, because then they would lose their edge, right? And so I can teach you how to write these trading bots, how to code these trading bots, and show some examples of some strategies that we could, for example, develop together. But again, no one will give you their best strategies, right, for free. This is like something that you have to learn yourself, and I think that is the like biggest skill as a trader that you can have, to actually do these analysis and find the edge yourself. You find your edge with machine learning, mining data, or how? I just mine data. So what I do, and I've shown some examples. So for example, if I show you this statistical arbitrage template that I'm using, right? So what I do is I just, let me show you on some example, right? So what I do is that I look for two assets that are in some way correlated or very similar, right? So what you could do is, again, calendar spread trading, or on stocks, you would like find two stocks that are in the same industry. And so what I can do, example, is I can try to extract data on Goldman Sachs. So again, we're as usual in the investment banking sector. And like for me, this is just a go-to example, you know, just to explain the high-level concept. Here's Morgan Stanley, another investment bank, right? So we're exporting data from two banks. Then we're looking at the relation between those two banks, right? So here you can see the individual stock prices, and then we apply the linear regression. We can then find the like relationship or ratio between those two stocks, and then we adjust the price. So for most part, as you can see, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley has been very profitable for me in August, September, start of October. But then we had some earnings report, right? So you can see that, you know, this strategy made a big loss in October. So this is one of the reasons I lost money in October. But then after this drop, you can also see that there is somewhat, you know, some ranging characteristic to this strategy. So what you could do is, for example, you could filter out this drop. You can apply the linear regression only on this part here, and then try the strategy again. But overall, if you look now at the like the backtest, for example, so when you when you look at the strategy here, right? So here we're trading the spread between the two assets. We are, you know, buying when the price is below the lower band, selling when it's above the upper band. And so this is how I test the strategies. And so what I do every day is I just think of any two pairs or like a multiple collection of pairs, right? You can also apply statistical arbitrage on like a basket of stocks. So this is, for example, if you, for example, trade a stock index against another stock index, right? NASDAQ versus S&P or NASDAQ versus Dow Jones. So you can also like create your own baskets or your own indices and then try that strategy on that. So I don't use machine learning. I would like to, but like I never found a way how to like apply it in my trading and make it useful. And I believe there are multiple ways to make it very useful. But I think with my background, I more or less like to like think and find these connections myself. And if there's anyone in the chat like who knows how to like improve that or find an edge using machine learning, like I'm open to, you know, maybe implement that into my code or research. But personally, I don't have that much experience or even like know how to apply machine learning here. And now we're exiting again, as you can see. So here we see that Goldman Sachs is dropping very hard right now. So we're seeing a very big market drop. And here now our strategy is going long. How could you test strategies that are different symbols and time entry dependencies for each entry? Do your backtest sleep does that? Yes. So I wrote my own backtester, and one of my members suggested that we go more into backtesting. So I wrote my own backtester class that is able to generate simulated traits, that's able to iterate through historical data and then evaluate the results. And it's also useful because it can actually use data such as a spread, right, for statistical arbitrage trading. And so when we look at the example here, right, so here I can provide any historical data to my backtester. So what I provide is a spread chart here. So this spread chart can be on any symbol that I want. So I can, in this backtester, change the symbol to anything. So instead of Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, I can, for example, also test on JP Morgan. I think the ticker is JP, or it's not. So in this case, let me open Data Bento because I'm using Data Bento as my data feed provider. So let me just quickly log in to my data feed provider here. And then show you how to find the tickers. Okay, so here we are on the Data Bento website. So here we can look for a JP Morgan, for example. And so here the ticker is JPM. So that's my mistake. So if I want to run a statistical arbitrage analysis on JP Morgan, all I have to do is just change the symbol name here. And now I have the historical data on JP Morgan. So I'm running an analysis between GS and JPM. And of course, like this, then it would compute the spread. So now we see that, for example, it seems like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan looks slightly better, you know, from a spread chart. Like you can buy when it's -10, sell when it's 10, for example. You can run multiple strategies. Of course, it's easy to run hypothetical trades on historical data, right? But I'm saying that if you invested in those two pairs, probably you'd have better results than doing it with Morgan Stanley. And then in my backtester, you know, I can set the volume. I can specify which Bollinger period I want to use, how many standard deviations, and also I can set the commission of backtester here, right? I set the historical data, the strategy logic, and so on. And then it will again generate some trades. As you can see, you know, here the backtest looks very nice. So here we have like a lot of profitable trades to losing ones. Of course, like when you're trading mean reversion like that, it can happen that your risk in theory could be infinite, right? You can also add hard stops to the strategy, or, you know, maximum allowed loss. But here the profits and losses are not going to be like symmetrical all the time. So what I mean is that in many cases the losses on mean reversion strategies can be 5, 10 times, 20 times bigger than your winners. So I mean example, symbol A, date 11/12, symbol B, date 11/10, and results for backtest combined. Oh, I see. Yes, you could do that, but in this case, what I would do is I would just run 2 individual backtests, and then I will just join them together, right? So my backtester is actually not able to, you know, do an analysis on one symbol, then do it on another one, and then keep going for that. So this is something that I don't have. Okay, so let's proceed also with the last topic of today. And I want to show you quickly how my statistical arbitrage trading bot works. And so my plan for the future live streams is, and I'm going to write down with you guys, I think I'm also going to create a new task, but for now, let me just write the task here, and then I will create a new task list for next time. So I'm just going to write new tasks. I'm really excited that, you know, over time we'll be, you know, working on something more exciting, like real trading, that I can show you guys. And because it's a member only, I'm not going to be, you know, afraid that I'm going to share it like with the real public, right? Losing your edge as a trader is the most stupid thing that you can do by just giving it out for free. So our new task is to find I'm going to try to find new strategies with you and backtest them, and then we're going to deploy the strategies live. So this is actually, you know, where I'm trying to get to, right? So right now I'm just trying to teach you guys how it works, how to code it, then, you know, release my course. And once that is done, then the next step is, okay, let's try to find some strategies, let's backtest them, and then I'm going to share it with you guys on the live accounts. I'm going to show how to trade them. And like, there's no guarantee that what we're going to do is going to be profitable, right? There's a high chance we're going to lose money, but at least you understand the process you know, how we look for strategies, how to deploy those trading bots. And again, finding the edge is, at the end of the day, your job, not mine, if you actually want to learn trading. So I don't want this, you know, live stream to be more like a signal service or whatever. What I'm trying to teach you guys is like the coding process, the analytical part, and like the process of developing the strategies. And so be ready that what we're going to do here is not like going to be like 100% win it all universal strategies, right? So you're not gonna find that here. You're probably not gonna find anywhere. Trading is all about, you know, finding new strategies, because sometimes you find something great, the edge will disappear, and then you'll have to find new ones. So something that might also work, you know, right now might not work in the future, and that's normal, right? So it's constant work of just looking, analyzing, deploying it, and then like cycle it out if it doesn't work out. That's what it is, and that's what I'm going to show you. Okay, so these are the new tasks, and of course, like here we're going to actually trade like statistical arbitrage, right? Or just pair. Let's call it pair trading. It's simpler. We're just going to buy asset 1, sell asset 2. So we're going to do pair trading strategies. And so let's now show you my statistical arbitrage trading bot template. And I'm going to add this template into my Discord server, so you guys can, for example, try it out for yourself. And so first, let's explain to you the configuration file, right? So now I'm going to disable the string bot, and we're going to focus on the statistical arbitrage template. So to deploy your own trading bot, using statistical arbitrage, you need 2 symbols, right? You need symbol 1 and symbol 2. So in this case, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, or in this case, I can write JPM, right? Let's try to, you know, change it up a bit, change the symbols. Today, we're going to trade Goldman Sachs versus JP Morgan. So in this config file, what you have to set is, you know, some variables. So here, trade disables is false, means that I'm actually allowed to trade. Here we need to specify this dictionary to, you know, specify what symbols we want to trade. So this is the data for Goldman Sachs. And because I changed the symbol here, I also need to provide a new contract ID. So in TWS, to create a new contract ID, or not create, to find the contract ID, we need to first find the symbol. So here we're going to trade the stock. And then if you go to description, you will find the contract ID here, right? This is the number. And this number allows you to define a contract using TWS API. So here we're going to trade the hourly time frame. We're going to trade, let's say, 10 stocks on Goldman Sachs. And then, for example, the maximum exposure on my strategy will be 20, right? So if you want to reach 20 exposure, we'll place 2 individual trades that will get there. So our Bollinger period is set to 40, Bollinger STD is set to 1.75. And then you can set some settings, you know, for your strategy. So there's something called free margin, right? Free margin is basically available liquid funds that you need to provide to your broker to keep your position open. And for example, if you have only $10,000 on your account, then maybe you want to exit your positions, then your free margin is 1,000, right? So basically this will just, you know, close your trades once free margin drops below that level, I believe. That's probably why I put in the configuration file there. You can also have like a security measure, how many trades you want, like maximum per session or per day, right? So to make sure your strategy does not accidentally open like hundreds of trades. Then I set this value to 10, right? So this is in a saved measure. And then I'm checking for something called like a timeout. So for example, if I disconnect from TWS, if my bid and ask price is older than 60 seconds, or if my historical rates are older than some period of time, my trading bot will stop trading because it knows it's working with old expired data. And then here I want to trade, during the US market session. So this is based on my local machine time. I live in Prague, so my current time zone is GMT +1. And so for me, if I want to trade the US market open, it will be 15:45, right? And then I want to close before US market close, not close, like stop trading before US market close, and that would be 21:45 for me. And then here you just set up some connection parameters, to connect to TWS. So you provide the host, port, the client ID, and the name of your IB account, which is this value here. And so this config file is then being imported into this stringbot template.py. And so when you run this stringbot, it will then run this statistical arbitrage, right? So it's following the same logic that you see here in this Jupyter notebook. And so let me just try to run this and see what it does. And maybe it might open a trade. We don't know, but maybe there's going to be a setup. It seems like I have an exposure error, and this is because my safety checker is checking the current exposures. And right now you see I'm trading statistical arbitrage on Goldman Sachs versus JP Morgan. And of course, my safety checker sees, okay, I have 100 stocks long on this symbol. So where are the JP Morgan stocks, right? It should always be hedged in some ratio. And that's why my trading bot is not working. So let me just close this trade. Okay, Vinicius, I need to leave. See you too. Yeah, thank you for joining the stream. It was nice having you here. Glad to have everyone, who's joining. So now if I run this statistical arbitrage trading bot template, so now it will evaluate, the relationship between those two. And here we can see like that we have some signal, right? We see our current signal is like short the spread, which is like short 10 stocks of Goldman Sachs and 2 JP Morgan. I think I did not figure out the correct ratio. What I forgot here, also I made 2 mistakes here. First of all, when we look at the ratio between Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, when we apply the linear regression, the ratio is different. And here the ratio is 2.5, right? So whenever I open 10 stocks on Goldman Sachs, I should multiply this by 2.5 because Goldman Sachs price is 833 and JPM stock price is 320. So here the ratio should be 2.5. So that's the first mistake. And second one is there is a problem with I think send market order. And I think it is because I have a new version of TWS and it might not be supported. The next valid ID. So here I have the function send market order. I need to check very fast where the bug is coming from. And that's also a problem, right? Like whenever you work with any API and you have outdated code, you need to downgrade to like a version where it's supported, or you just have to, maintain the code and update that. And here I have a function called send market order. And so what this function does is it will place the order on this contract using this data here. And a unified version is not none. Okay, let me close the positions and try again. Whether I fix that, I don't think, I think I need to check the new version of TWS API and find a solution for that, or I will just downgrade my version of TWS and that should solve the problem. Okay, so again, let me close the trade. And let me close this trade. And let me try to run this trading bot template. Okay, so now we have the correct ratio. So it seemed to work, but let's see where the error is coming from. I think I found the issue, and it is the order state dot commission. This one has no attribute commission. So here, what I'm going to do is, so the best thing you can do is maybe check the API documentation, because maybe they have updated that API. And now I'm going to go to orders or order management and look for the open order callback. And so our order object here. So order state object has no attribute commission. So let me try to print this order state object, and maybe I will find what's different about this. So this is just, some backend error from my API implementation. So again, I place another trade, right? So until the first transaction that it opens, it is working, and I need to check this order state issue. So here again, you see that the commission here is not being shown. And so I believe, fixing on stream, I think, gives me a bit of performance anxiety, not JK. But I think it's not worth me fixing something where I want to focus on something else. So let me just finish what I tried to, explain with the trading bot template, right? And then I will fix it off stream, and then maybe I'll just let you know what the issue was. So my trading bot on statistical arbitrage has something called a safety checker. This safety checker checks for maximum trades per day, maximum timeouts, maximum timeout for the current market data, and the historical OHLC data. So this is what I'm checking. And so here in this run safety check function, I can run multiple checks, right? So for example, this process trade event, right? I am, for example, monitoring the current exposure. It is basically the same concept that I've applied in this string bot, where I'm checking this current exposure is equal to expected exposure. So the same way I can just track my current open trades and see, what the exposure should be, right? So if my action is buy, I track this expected exposure. And then if you look for the function check post trade result. So now that I have a statistical arbitrage or pair trading setup, I need to check the exposure between two assets, right? I need to make sure that Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are always in the same ratio of 2.5, right? So when I have 40 stocks on Goldman Sachs, I should have 100 stocks long on JP Morgan. And here, what I'm doing is that here we can also check the exposures, right? So here we have with pair trading, you have many more safety checks you have to run. And here, so here's a very simple function that implements this check that we always are within the same ratio. Here in this function, I'm checking the timeouts to make sure that all the data I receive is real time. The same way for OHSC data. And then here I check, the maximum trades per session when I run the train bot. And then, so here in this class, so this is my safety checker class, I have some function that runs a safety check. So it runs all of these checks, and when everything is okay, it will then allow me to trade. And then here I also have this function called get spread indicators. So here I'm computing the Bollinger Band on the spread, right? So on the spread between those two assets. And then similarly, like with the Bollinger Band that I have here, now we're getting into, we're going here. I'm going into this main block where I'm subscribing to the market data, right? So here I define a contract. Then I request the market data. I request the historical data. Here I initialize a safety checker class. And then again, we have a while loop that runs the trading time filters. So when we are past our trading time, the script will exit. And then here we have our safety checker that runs these checks with every iteration. And so then there is this long code block here that is computing the Bollinger Bands, the indicators, checking for the signals. And here we have our signal strategy, right? Buy, sell. And then it runs some more safety checks. And then lastly, here we have our logic where we actually submit the trades to our broker. So it is actually the same concept with the Bollinger, like with the Bollinger Band we coded today. But all we do is here, instead of computing the indicators for a single asset, we are computing the indicator on the spread, which is a combination of two assets, and that just only requires, extra data monitoring, extra safety checks, but the concept is the same. So when you see that, for example, I open a pair trade, I open a buy and sell order at the same time, also buy and sell order at the same time, and so on. So now here you can see that now I have like two trades open, and this strategy should be working if I updated the code for the latest TWS version, right? So this I will fix. But yeah, so this is it for today's live stream. So hopefully, guys, if you have any questions, let me know now so I can attend to them and maybe answer them. And before I go, so let's just recap what we're going to do in the new upcoming live streams. So as mentioned, I'm still working on my course on TWS API. So you're going to have like a detailed course where we're going to implement our trading bot with Interact Brokers, and we're going to run peer trading strategies. And after that is done, I will then focus on designing some strategies with you live on stream. And then we're going to deploy these strategies on one of my live accounts, and then we're going to trade together and see, how we'll progress. So I'm not sure if we're going to make money or lose money, right? Ideally, we want to make money because that's why we're trading in the first place. But yeah, so I'd be very happy if you guys, join this journey with me. And also the last thing, also let me repeat the current stream schedule. So I will post my live streams at atjresearch.com/livestream. So you can expect, future topics and live streams in this calendar. As I mentioned, this will member only. So my strategies will just be, shared within a small circle, of members. But I will also upload, some stream highlights or some clips to YouTube, right? So you guys who only watch YouTube can have a glimpse of what we're doing here in live streams as well. And yeah, if anything, again, let me know, and thanks for joining this live stream. There's a question. Hi, too. Thanks a lot for good insights. Can I reach out to you via mail? I'm market making and arbitrage guy. Sure. Just send me an email. It's ATJ, sorry, it's research@atjtraders.com. I'll be very happy to reply. All right then. So I guess there are no more questions for today. So thank you everyone for joining today's live stream. I'm very happy that the microphone worked today and we're streaming HD now. So hopefully, I'm slowly getting better at this. And I will post my next live stream very soon. And I'll see you next time. So take care guys and bye.